Okay, there we go. And yeah, so coming back to sharing a bit about Larry. Larry, as we all know, has been designing processes for teams and leaders in various cultural settings for more than 40 years. He joined the Institute of Cultural Affairs, the ICA as we know it, in 1972. And for the past 28 years, he has been the director of ICA Taiwan. He was the president of ICA International from 2010 to 2012. Larry has worked outside the United States since 1977, doing extensive company and community-based projects in over 40 nations. His clients primarily include villages, communities of practice, government organizations, and more than 50 multinational and local companies across the world. Larry's key skill is in tailoring designs and facilitation of processes to specific needs, while helping to recover a sense of respect and trust as a basis for establishing organizations and communities that can learn and change. Currently, he's focusing all of his time on aspects of community building. All the courses that they conduct now, the facilitation and training are now available online. Larry is an IAF Certified Professional Facilitator Emeritus, which is, I think, the highest level that a CPF can get to. And he's also named to the IAF Hall of Fame in 2015. So without further ado, let me hand over the floor to Larry and let us get on with the experience. Over to you, Larry.
So welcome everybody. I have to laugh when you say emeritus is the highest. CPF emeritus, I think, means you're old. So therefore you've lived long enough to get there. But I'm glad everybody could come.
Old or not, definitely wise.
So I'm glad everybody could join us. We're looking at the question of spirit and facilitation in spirit. The spirit of facilitation is in the moment. Am I aware of my own energy? Am I aware of the group's energy? Am I able to be present to that? So a lot of the work we do as facilitators is designing process and worrying about questions and worrying about details. But another level of it is, am I able to be in that moment? Once I've done all my design, to let that go and to practice in the moment. So what I want to invite you to do the next 90 minutes is we're just going to explore that a bit together. I will tell you a few stories from my experience, but also you'll get a chance to tell stories to each other from experiences that you've had. And I just realized this was being recorded. I hadn't really thought about that before. As we tell some of these stories, you may have to edit the story a little bit if you know it's going to be recorded. So I don't have any idea. It just depends on the kinds of story you feel moved to speak around. But the first piece I want to talk about, I want us to share together about, and to give you a chance to meet with a few other people to share around, is when you're aware of the need of being in the moment. So when you've been facilitating a process or working with a partner facilitator or whatever, and you realize that need. One of the stories from my past, I was doing a contradiction workshop with a client, which is an issue root cause workshop. And in that moment, the vice president of the company jumped out of his chair, went up to the board, ripped the piece of paper off the board and said, "This is BS," and threw it on the ground. Now, this is a group that spent 2 days deepening their work, trusting, building, all this stuff, and suddenly everything is gone. And all my methodology, all my procedure, everything else, I had no idea what to do. So being a fully competent CPF, I took a break. I had no clue what to do. So I just said, let's take a break. And then I went and talked to everybody. And I realized in conversation with the vice president, first I asked him, can you apologize to the group? He said, no. I said, can you tell the group what caused that? What was it about what was going on that you felt compelled to do that? And so he did. He got up when we came, I got the group back together and we got up and he said, the reason I did that is the title that we were talking about was around communication and the breakdown of communication. He said, we communicate all the time. So to say we're having a breakdown of communication doesn't hold the struggle or pain that this represents for us. And so that's why I jumped out of my chair and tore it down. I didn't feel like we had yet come up with a name that honored what we as a group have already done. And not that this is not an issue, but that we need to name it at another level. And so for me, this moment was a moment of opportunity. It was a moment of opportunity for the group. It was a moment of opportunity for transformation. And so in my facilitation, am I prepared to be in that moment? So what we're going to do, we're experimenting with a tool called a Zoom whiteboard. Has anybody ever used a Zoom whiteboard before? Good, neither have I. So it's a radical experiment. We're trying something out. So what we're going to do is you have a whiteboard here. We're going to break you up into teams, and each team has, there's a little, on the left side of the board, there's a number and then 4 questions. So each team is you're going to go into your team and each of you get a chance to share a story and then decide how much or what you would like to write on the board. Again, this is an experiment, so I don't know what you see. I know what I see. So what I'm seeing is oh, I forgot to ask you, Shalaka, what color are those circles? I'm colorblind. I think they're blue.
They are more like purple.
Okay, that's what I said. Purple,
White,
blue.
yeah,
It's the same color to some of us, but to others of it is different. So the circle on the side where it says 1, 2, 3, you're going to have 3 other people in your room. So there'll be about 4 people in each room. Each of you get to introduce yourself a little bit and then tell a story about your own experience of being in the moment. When have you been aware as a facilitator of being in a moment? Now, many of you I know, so as I look at you, I think of different stories about each of you in this space. So if you can't think of one, send me a note. I can tell you one about you. But anyway, that's another story. All right, so we're going to give you 10 minutes in teams of 4, and then we'll come back and ask each team to share just a bit.
Yeah, there could be 4 or 5 people in each room.
Okay.
So, yeah,
that's the perfect number.
All right, perfect. So I'm opening the rooms. Should I go ahead?
Please. And we'll see you in 10 minutes. I may drop in your room to listen to a story or 2. If I do, I'll try to be quiet.
Okay, here we go. Charo, did you get an invite? Okay, let me assign it to you.
Jensen, are you there or? So Shalaka, what's the story from your facilitation life about being in the moment?
Well, I just had an experience yesterday when I was actually helping a group of heads of departments to set their key result areas, and this was a 2-day workshop. And at the end of the 2 days, we said we will do a debrief and closure. And in between, I was supposed to sit with them one-on-one. And I somehow thought that, one sec, I'll just assign Alex to a room. And then, yeah. Sham has asked for help, Larry.
Okay, which room?
Room 2.
Okay, I'll be right there.
Hi, Divya, are you there? Divya? Hi, Alex. Did you get thrown out of the room? Everything okay, Larry? You're on mute in case you're speaking.
Oh, I'm okay. That's good.
Okay.
Hello, Maheshwari.
Yeah, both Mahi and Alex were in the breakout rooms earlier, but they seem to have lost connection. So I'm just wondering if you could let me know which rooms were you part of, Alex, so that I can send you to the same room.
Hello.
Yes, Alex. Which room were you part of?
I just joined and hopped off, so you can let's see.
Should I send you to a room then, a breakout room?
Yes, you may.
Okay, I'm sending you to room number 6, which has only 3 people so far. I don't see any stuff coming up on the sticky notes, so I was just wondering.
I think we're having trouble getting people because I can't tell where they're looking. It's hard for me to, so I'm wondering, do you have the power to make people go where you are on the whiteboard?
No, like mural, you invite people to collaborate on a particular piece of the board.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, well, that's not. Okay, this is something about this board I don't like.
So, yeah, do you want to send a broadcast message? What should be the alternative for people to capture their responses?
It's okay because we're recording.
Okay.
We can, I mean, it's okay for people to put their responses over there, but it's also okay for people just to share their stories. It's more, I'm trying to figure out for the rest of the exercises, how do we help them see the geography of what we're looking at? If they go to 25% on the board, they can see everything.
Correct. The thing is, what has happened is the top portion of the board is blank. So some people may get a little confused.
Yeah.
I was trying to reduce that space, but somehow not able to do it.
So I think the simple answer is I will ask them to reduce to 25% so they can see the whole screen.
Okay.
And then I will explain where they have geography. I'm going to see if everybody had a chance to share their story.
Yeah, the 10 minutes are up. So I've just kind of kept it open, but let me know if in a minute or so we can close it. Yeah, there is Derek. He also seems to have lost connection. Hi, Derek. He's still connecting. Hi, Derek. Did you drop off from the breakout room?
Yes, I dropped off, but we had finished our conversation.
Good. Okay. And we'll close it. we will close all the rooms based on your recommendation.
Right. But we
Alex, you're a Manchester City fan? Is that what that symbol means?
that is.
It's so weird. We don't have the option to come back to the main room.
You
We
say you
only,
don't? Oh, you
Yeah,
don't have that choice.
yeah, we don't have the choice. We only have the choice to leave the meeting.
Yeah, which I didn't spot, and that's why I left the meeting.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thinking I
that's
was
a new
leaving the
one.
breakout room.
And we couldn't find a whiteboard at all. So we just share story and
So,
forget about it.
I'm glad you shared your stories. Did any team have access to the whiteboard in your room?
Nope, we didn't.
Okay, so as I said, this is a learning experience with a tool called the Zoom whiteboard.
Yeah, we did.
I also had that same experience that when I was in the breakout, I could not open the whiteboard. So that's just interesting data for us to have for the future. So would anyone like to share your story so that others could hear your story, or you could ask somebody to share a story if you really liked their story? Team 1, you remember what number you were?
May I go, Larry? I would like to share.
Please. Please.
Okay, so this is a very recent story. We were facilitating a group of branch managers and team leads a month ago. So this was a pure process facilitation that we did for a one day. The need or the desired outcome was to develop people orientation skills so that there's a greater team engagement and the attrition is low amongst the people. So there were two moments of truth, but I'll just talk about one for the positive time here. So by mid lunch break, we realized that the team members had a lot to say and ask, which we didn't have answers for. And there we realized with the lunch break that they were seeking for something like an HR connect so that they can speak and talk to the HR about what challenges are they facing when it comes to handling teams or when it comes to attrition or when it comes to recruitment and so on and so forth. The HR Connect was not part of the program design, or it was not viewed into the design flow. So since the good part was this workshop was being facilitated in their own office, in their own training room, the HR was sitting on the same floor. So I took this opportunity to go check with the CHRO, would he be comfortable to come for half an hour to just address the group, because this is emerging and we don't have any answers for it. They're looking at this, and this would be like a speed breaker if they don't get it addressed. The second part will not fall smoke. CHRO was kind enough to understand and come in, and we advise the CHRO, please don't give any gyan or any advice. Just listen to them and sum it up and see what themes are emerging, and we can play it back. So luckily the CHRO listened to our advice and played to the thing, basically more listening and absorbing and kind of summarizing and theming it, which helped us in the second part of the session. So that's the story that I would like to share.
Thank you. Somebody else? That was actually team 2. Any one of the other teams, somebody like to share your story?
Yeah, I don't remember in which group I was, but I was with Parinita and 2 more colleagues were there, and
Team 3.
yeah, so we somehow got the instructions not in the most correct manner. So what we did is we introduced ourselves with each other, and after that we shared our understanding about being present in the moment. So it was not any particular incident or a story that was shared, but we shared with each other that what it means to us. So one of the opinion came, that was mine, is being present means not to worry about the outcome that you must have designed for the session. So rather than focusing on the outcome or at the end of the session, whatever the discussion is going on, our entire focus should be on that particular moment, that how the discussions or facilitations is happening, how the opinions are coming from each other. Our main focus should be there. And if the design is fine, then ultimately it is going to lead to a good outcome only. So rather than worrying about the outcome or worrying about the end, we should be present in the moment.
Thank you,
And
Rajesh.
yeah, and one more came from our group was listening to our body is what means to her, our colleague, by being in present. So the body tells you that how to respond, and listening to body is works like a north star for her to follow and being in the present. So these two things we could put it on the whiteboard. We were able to
Thank
open
you.
the whiteboard, but I don't know how to bring it here.
It's okay. We've got them now recorded for history, so it's okay. And then we have another story either from team 4, 5, or 6. Anybody would like to share a story?
I'll go on behalf of team 6, I think. I was with Chandar. So
Yes.
this is Chandar's story actually. So he was facilitating a workshop about core value identification, and over a period that was the agenda for him, and he was supposed to finish that and thereafter get into other aspects such as purpose, objectives, and things like that. So somewhere along the way, when he was debriefing after the identification of the core values, it was his exercise was interrupted by one of the directors who completely hijacked the session. And he started off with his own story about discovering his objectives, his purpose, and how it was aligned to the organization and stuff like that. And he continued on for nearly about an hour, and it completely derailed the session which Chandar had planned. So apparently Chandar says that he gave him a feedback towards the end of the day, and I think all was well after that. But this was Chandar's story.
So since Chandra is still smiling, I think it's okay that you shared his story. So that's good. I'm reading his smile there. And do we have one more story?
I would like to share a story. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. And this story is about, and probably some of you have been in those situations. I was facilitating with a group that felt very formal in the way they were doing things, very square and very formal and very like had to follow certain elements. And my style of facilitation is more fluid and more elements of it. So at the beginning, I was like trying to follow that rigidity and saying like, okay, I have to do that. And it wasn't working because it wasn't me. And then was that moment that I actually felt, okay, I can't be someone that it's not me. And the moment that I actually embrace my style of doing things actually flew so beautifully. And I always remember that because it was how I was present, but also in a congruity, congruent on the values and the beliefs that I was bringing forward. And that expression that you really can't be anyone. You just, the role that you can play is not your role because it's who you are. So yeah, I want to bring that because I think that that's when we are not ourselves is when we actually lose that balance and presence. So yeah, that's my story.
Thank you. So, well, for me, this is one of the key pieces about being in the moment is I'm there. And so in order to be in the moment with the group, I also have to be in the moment with myself. And then holding the space for that next emergence, whatever that next emergence is. So I want to go back to our whiteboard. Now, this time we're doing this collectively, so the whiteboard should stay for everybody. So Shalaka, could we share the whiteboard again?
So I'm just wondering, Larry, I've created a Google Doc. Would you want
okay.
to try that out if that is easier for people to access? And
I am okay either way. Does that mean there's a Google Doc in our chat now?
yes,
Okay, let's experiment with a Google Doc. Because I live in Taiwan and do a lot of work with our colleagues in China, I don't usually use Google Docs.
It's working, Larry. It's working, Shalaka.
So what do you call it? I've had to learn. It's been one of my learning curves, how to use a Google Doc. So
yeah, very, very similar to Microsoft Word. So.
yes, it's very similar, just different. So the next topic we're going to do, I'll share my screen so you can see my doc, and then you can open your own. But this is the I want to talk a little bit about speaking with intent to listen. And I think several of your stories were beginning to come around this topic. That when I, as a designer, as a facilitator, I design a process. And then as I start to facilitate, I'm speaking that question or that flow with then an awareness that what next emerges may or may not be according to the process I designed. And so one of the work exercises that I did, I was doing some work with a group in Shanghai on leadership team on their values. And so it was actually kind of a weird situation because a consultant was hired to survey and design their values. And then I got a call, would I facilitate the board to talk about the report from the other consultant? And I said, because I'd done some work with the leadership team before, and so they thought they trusted me, and they said, would I facilitate it? I said, I'll facilitate it, but you need to know I don't really agree with the process by which they created the values. I don't like somebody going in and asking people what their values are and then writing it on their behalf. But anyway, I said, but I don't mind facilitating a conversation about it. So as we started the conversation, we got to one of the values, and the newest person in the group was obviously in deep pain. And he was struggling. And then finally he said, no, we can't have this be our value. The value was building trust. He said, that cannot be our value. That implies you don't trust me now. And so first couple minutes, everybody was telling him, no, that's not what that means, and et cetera, et cetera. And then we finally opened up to having a deeper conversation, which was what was really going on? What was the real challenge that he was trying to express? And how could the rest of the group listen to that? And so we then took about 20 minutes exploring this question and realizing how critical it was that they come to a new level of agreement, that they come to a new level of practice. And so I set aside the rest of my questions, and we stayed that 20 minutes on that. And then I brought it back to the group and said, now I've got more questions we can ask, or we can continue down this path. And so as a group, they decided to continue exploring that. How do we talk to each other more authentically? Question as being the critical question that they as a leadership team needed to deal with. So we took another hour on that, and then we came back, and the values piece was very easy because they'd established how they could talk to each other. So for me, this is one of the key pieces for us as facilitator is we do need to design what we do. We need to design our questions, but we also need to pay attention to what's going on in the group, to be aware of what's there, and to hold the space for that to emerge. So what I'd like to have you take a moment is just to think about, in your own experience of speaking with intent to listen, what are things that help you do that? What are strengths that you have or strengths you've seen in other facilitators? And so now we have a Google Doc. I'm going to stop sharing the Google Doc. We have a Google Doc. If you can just write into that doc anything that for you has represented a strength. And as you scroll down the Google Doc, you'll see the next category of our conversation is challenges. What gets in the way of you doing that? But just take a moment and think about that, and you can begin to write, and then I'll ask a few of you to share. I always find Google Docs strange because you're talking to anonymous buffaloes and anonymous alligators. Okay, that was not my timer, but I will take that as a hint. So can we have a few strengths? Can a few of you share what you wrote on your strengths, particularly people whose voice we haven't heard yet, so we have a chance to hear others? What's a strength?
Excuse me, Larry.
Yes.
Because I can't open the Google Doc in China.
No problem. Yes,
So,
just
yeah.
you can type it on the chat, or you can say it, and somebody will type it for you.
Okay, and
Please.
Could you share the doc?
Yes, I can. I mean, share the picture. Yes, I can.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, got it.
All right. So thank you for reminding me. So would somebody like to share? Yes, Juan, you look like you're about to jump out of your chair. You can share. Go ahead.
I think for me, to be realized the current moment is to give myself a pause to either think or to consider what are my options. Thank you. I'm complete. And another person also shared that having empathy for others. And I also find that with the empathy, helping me to kind of be more conscious of myself, of my reaction and my biases, and what helped me to pause or not pausing. Thank you. I'm complete.
Thank you. Someone else. You can raise your hand or you can just speak. Got two hands. I got Carolyn.
Yeah.
Nice to see you, Carolyn.
Nice to see you too, Larry. Yeah, I wrote the one about empathy because I think sometimes we have certain concept we want to share, but we don't really understand what the other person is thinking. So if I step back and practice empathy, I can look at things from their perspective, and that allows me to go into deep listening. I'm complete.
Thank you, Rajesh.
Yeah, so empathy is coming as the most common quality for listening to others. So I also go for empathy. And one more thing I would like to add is respect for others. So when we overwrite others' opinion with ours, that means we are not showing respect for everyone. So when we value other people, other people's opinion, their qualities and their merits, then we will be more interested to listen to others rather than making people listen to what we know or what we believe into. So respect and empathy, these are the two things I would like to go for as a quality. Thanks.
And I see the ones here about nonverbal clues. This is particularly challenging as we go in a cross-cultural context, because often the nonverbal clues are very different from one cultural context to the next. And so it's really critical that I hold my awareness that I'm not certain. I know what I think, but I don't know what I know. Yes, Carolyn. You put your hand back up again.
Oh, okay. I think I should have lowered my hand, but okay. I think I love the concept you taught me, Orit, and I use that to guide me in case if it's a big group, sometimes things can go out of hand, but Orit can kind of guide the process. I'm complete.
Thank you. So let's go to challenges. And what do you experience for you? What holds you back from your speak with intent to listen? One of the things that sometimes gets in my way is the power relationships in a room that I feel like I need to protect somebody, or I feel like, and so I really have to let that go just to speak, and then let go and hold the space for the group to emerge. Anybody would like to share theirs to us? And again, if you can't, for some reason, can't access the board, it's okay to type in. I see Elaine's slow down to speed up. Sri Ram has your hand up.
Yep. For me, it's the focus of getting to a planned destination. I'm done.
I was just thinking, I got to finish this in 45 minutes. Rajesh.
Yes. So being judgmental is something that comes in the way of listening to others. Sometimes we may very soon be judgmental about whatever input is coming from someone is out of context or meaningful or may not be relevant to the discussion. So being judgmental is one. And sometimes we feel that some discussions are going out of context or that is not relevant to the topic we are currently meeting for. So out of context discussions going very too lengthy, too far into going too far into discussion, and being judgmental. These are the three things that may stop us from listening well to the people.
Thank you. Arvind.
Yeah, hi Larry. One of the challenges I personally face is that when some conversation is happening, there are a lot of ideas which come up in my own mind, and there's a huge tendency to say, go out, okay, let me go out and put out my ideas, and I have to keep reminding myself that right now here it's the group which is more important than my individual thoughts. But yes, that's one of the challenges. Because when you are thinking of those ideas, you're automatically shutting down the listening.
a classic book for me is called Fifth Discipline by Peter Senge. One of the things he talked about in the book was the left-hand column, so that I can jot down all those things that get in my way and let them go without forgetting them. And so I can jot them down, that I can stay focused on the group and on the moment. But I can still have all that stuff available for later if I need it. Anybody else? Yes, Pranita, you have your hand up. I'm sorry.
Sometimes I think it's when I'm not fully present, two things happen. Judgment comes in, and of course, within moments I realize that, oh, I'm going there. And maybe in that attempt to revert back as the knowledgeable person, haven't really heard them, listened to them fully, just heard them, and wanted to come from that space of wanting to provide an answer. Because that's something I think I've been working on, and it has improved. Shutting up, allowing the group to rule the space. Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you. There are a lot of challenges for me in this area. And one of the things, this thing about judgment, one of the pieces for me is the judgment of myself. And that when I realize I'm not, that I'm blocking, then how do I let that go and come back to the moment, rather than then spending 5 minutes beating myself up for the fact that I wasn't doing what I thought I was supposed to do. And so this for me was one of the most important learnings, was it will happen. I will make mistakes. And when I do, my job is simple: let it go, come back to the moment, and then decide what to do. And so whatever it is, I can apologize, I can change my question, but I can only do that in the moment. So the last piece we're going to touch on, we're going to do a little bit of a dialogue. I was going to share, I can actually, now that I'm doing sharing this way, I can actually share my slide more easily. So some of you are my colleagues who do work in dialogue. I wanted to take a few minutes just to do a little dialogue, and we'll be in small groups, but to talk about letting go of result and revealing spirit. Now, this does not, I don't mean by this you don't have to get results. That's not the intent here. The intent here is, as I'm focusing on spirit, that I'm recognizing result, but I'm also bringing it back to the group, that they're making choices. So that same group of leaders I was talking about in Shanghai, that moment became an opportunity for them to recognize their ownership of the process. Because when they realized that I was honestly asking them, do you want to take this topic or that topic? They realized they had responsibility for the process, not just me. And even though up to that point, I told them they had response, they didn't recognize it until that moment. And so in the moment of letting go of result, it opens that doorway up for not just me, but for the group to experience the spirit that's in the moment and the opportunity that's in the moment. Now, my metaphor for this is peanuts and chopsticks. When I began practicing using chopsticks, I used them to pick up peanuts. And what I discovered was 1 peanut, very easy. 2 peanuts, a little more difficult, but very possible. 3 peanuts, kind of hard. But 4 peanuts, the peanuts have to agree. And so this is the thing, as a facilitator, I'm creating the container, I'm holding the space, but the group is also choosing to be in that space, choosing to be aware of what is possible. So what I'd like you to do, we're going to do this by doing first a round of sharing where each person will talk about my experience of the role of facilitator in supporting the group in flow while holding lightly to the results. Each of you will take about 90 seconds to share that. Then as each of you finish, you will ask what you feel is the core question. And then once everybody's had a chance to share, you'll have about 20 minutes to share, to do an open dialogue. Now, as you speak, I do a 3-day course on dialogue and a 2-day course on dialogue. I'm about to do a 2-minute course on dialogue. So just be nice to each other as you get to the practice. Guidelines: speak from I, try to speak with your own voice. Avoid assigning intention, beliefs, or motives to others. In other words, if somebody says something and you think you know what they mean, but you're not sure, ask so that you can make sure you understand. That silence is as much participation as speaking, because silence is always a choice. So if your particular dialogue spends 20 minutes in silence, that may be exactly what you needed to do. And then finally, our time is limited, so be aware. Okay, so I'm going to put these in the chat as well, if I can figure out how to do that, so that you have access to these when we break out into the groups. The groups will have about 30 minutes. So you will need to pay attention to your time a bit. Where'd my chat go? Over there. And are there any questions? And if the answer is yes, we have a lot of questions, too bad. Yes, are there any questions? All right, so let's break into groups. And again, I may drop into your group. If I do, I'll try not to be too intrusive. But, and for this exercise, it looks like we can do 3 groups, Shalaka, or 4 at the most.
Okay.
We want at least 5 people or 6 people in a group.
Okay, yeah. So I'm creating 4 groups, 5 to 6 people per group.
Perfect.
And we give them 30 minutes. How much time?
30 minutes. Let's go for 30 minutes. That way we have 5 minutes to check out when we come back.
All right. Okay. Yeah. All set. And I'm opening the rooms now. Enjoy the conversations.
Okay, so we still need to do some more work figuring out how to use the Zoom board. I think the issue with it is you can only share it to people who are on your Zoom account, which means that only people that if you break out to take it with them, they have to have somebody from your Zoom account. At least that's my current operating theory, because I have no trouble viewing it and doing it when you're here. As soon as I leave, I don't have access to it anymore.
Well, but people were here. Oh, what you're saying is in the breakout room, because I'm not there with them, they are not able
They
to
can't
use
see
the
it.
Zoom.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so that's, which is then, okay, now that we know that, we could do it a different way. You could have them do the chat in the Zoom, in the breakouts. Although Zoom chat has its own issues around breakouts.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's, interesting. I definitely feel like you were right that it's easier to use than like Miro and other things. So it's too bad about the breakout capability. And again, I think it may be that when you, if you upgrade, they have a $24 a year or something upgrade, that may deal with that issue.
Well, this is a paid IAF global account that we're using. So
I know,
it's
but
not
because the whiteboard is brand new, we unless they upgraded, I didn't upgrade. I just noticed it exists. It exists on all accounts, but there's, as I was just trying to figure out in the gap after I said I can't reach yours, I was trying to figure out why. I went online and I found the pricing scheme, and they have they have a professional level or something, and then they have another one.
Okay.
So, and then the question I had was, well, am I going to use it enough to, make that worthwhile? And so I think this is a question that IAF needs to play with. Partly, will it do that? And if it will do that, then that's a good reason to pay the upgrade.
Yeah, I think it's a question of balancing how much one pays for a Miro professional account or a Mural professional account, and how much do we pay additionally for using the Zoom whiteboard.
Exactly. Well, and I do like the fact that everybody immediately has access to it. So when you shared the link and you were on, everybody immediately had access to it as long as they were on Zoom. And I like that, because that means that's an important factor, especially as we deal with different bandwidths in different places, is having everything in one app means the chance of them being able to use it goes up dramatically.
Yeah, and I remember that's why we decided to use it, because you did call out that people from China may not be able to use the Google documents.
Yeah, because of COVID, I've done stuff. Now I do stuff all over the world, a lot more. So I have a lot of places that like Google Doc. But for us here, I've always avoided it simply because I have too many people from China who are coming. Why make it difficult for them if I don't have to? Okay, I'm going to go drop in on a team and see how they're doing.
Right. Yeah, I'm tempted to do likewise. So
Please enjoy. Let's see. So I'm going to join room 3, I think, for a few minutes.
Okay, I'll go to another room. Hello, Farhat.
Hello, good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon. Did you get the timing wrong of the session?
Yeah, I think I got it wrong.
Yeah, because I think we are about to end. In about 10 minutes.
Sorry?
We are about to end in about 10 minutes.
Yeah, I didn't calculate the time zone properly, unfortunately.
Where are you joining in from, Farhat?
From Saudi.
Ah, okay. All right. Yeah, it could be confusing at times.
Yeah, I got confused because it says 2:30, but 2:30 is India time, and India time, so it's for me,
That's right.
Saudi time.
That's right.
Wait,
Yes.
And between Saudi and India, it's more than 1 hour time difference. I didn't.
Yeah, I think it's around 1.5 hours, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, because here now in Saudi, it is 1:24. So 2:30.
Oh, 1:24. It's almost 4 o'clock here.
So it is 2 hours then. Almost
2.5 hours.
well, yeah, 2.5 hours. Mm.
So Farhat, tell me, are you part of the IAF?
Yes, I'm part of the Africa region. So last year we tried to initiate North Africa chapter, and then for some reason didn't work. So we're still struggling. We are trying to bring it back to life, the North Africa chapter. But unfortunately, in North Africa, we are only 2 people, literally now. We used to be 6 people. They didn't renew officially their membership, so they didn't pay. 3, they are still interested, but I don't know, they have issues with payment. You know, this part of the world, so myself, I work in Saudi and I live in Saudi, but I'm Algerian. But for some other people, it's not very obvious, you know, with the banking system, mainly in Algeria and Tunisia. So this is it.
Well, it's lovely to have you here for whatever little time you can stay. We do have people coming back from the breakout discussions. Okay.
Maybe it's a dinner time. Okay.
Yeah. Well, it was lovely to hear the little one for a while yet. Larry, you're on mute.
We only have a couple minutes left. Is there anything any of the dialogue groups would like to share from your dialogue?
I'd like to share. In our group, there's one question raised because the question is, we as a facilitator let go of the result. So our question is, what if your client does not let go of the result, right? So then we share about experiences about trust and contracting, but these are all from the external facilitator aspect. We talk about power and those things. We did not hear from internal facilitators perspective. I trust that will be even more challenging. So that was our group.
Anyone else, another group like to share a piece of your dialogue?
Maybe I can share something about our group.
Okay, so we'll go there and then we'll go to Sarah. Yes,
we share our different experience, but we share our situation, what we learn. I find that in our 3 cases that we learn, something new about ourselves and about this profession in process facilitation, and something that we may not consider or we may not have not considered. I'm complete.
Sarah, did you have your hand up? I thought you did.
I'd love to maybe if I can sum up what the dialogue means for us as a group. I think it was an opportunity to explore role of facilitator through four key inquiry. I think it started out with the role, and I think where it got us was, I think, this emergence of trainer versus coach versus facilitator. And it got us to asking 4 questions. One is, who are we being? And I think there was so much aliveness when we talk about the role of the facilitator and the relationship with the group that, and then you jump in and you said, but which of this is my responsibility? And what is the group's responsibility? And we continued from there, Larry, and we thought that the next level is actually, for what sake is all of this? And I thought that layer of inquiry was really interesting.
Thank you. Well, for me, the practical result, the commitment you've made to your client for a result is important, and you need to hold that. That the whole, as other things emerge in the process, the question then you have is, how do I make that, if there's a choice? And there doesn't have to, this is not necessarily going to happen, but if there's a choice that does emerge, how do you make the awareness of that choice available to the group so that you're still holding the pole of, I've committed to do this with you. That's why you've asked me to be here. You've hired me, whether internal or external. I'm committed to doing this process. And this emergence has taken place. And therefore, do we make a different choice? Do you make a different choice? Do we come back to the original choice? Not denying that opportunity, but recognizing now is not the time to take that opportunity. The point is that you're, as a facilitator, then what I'm doing is making the group aware of their responsibility, of their choice, not making it for them, but bringing it to consciousness. And for me, this is the key to be aware of the spirit, is that often they don't have that awareness as we start, but as it emerges, they do. And the choice becomes possible. And then how do I make present that choice is there? So like I said, with that group in Shanghai, they had a very clear choice whether to take more time to spend time building their team as a leadership team, or to go back to the original task of just verifying the language on the values. And as a facilitator, I'm okay either way. But we need to be aware that this opportunity's now become present by this young man taking the risk of speaking, by this young man taking the risk of raising his experience to the group. The doorway open for a whole new level of community within that circle. But they still have to decide whether to go that way or not. It's not my responsibility to force them into that, but it is my responsibility to raise it to awareness. And I need to make that my closing statement, because we're supposed to be stopping at 18:30, and it is now 18:32. If you'd like to continue the conversation or have questions or whatever, please, my email is always available, and I'm glad to continue the conversation. But for me, this is a key part of our role as a facilitator, is that we are responsible for the process and to increasingly be sensitive to what else is taking place in the moment. So thank you for sharing. And I'll turn it back to Shalaka.
Thank you so much, Larry. I wish this discussion could go on, and it doesn't have a, kind of a deadline, because it's so enriching. It was absolutely enriching, and everybody was so involved in the discussions for whatever little I could, kind of join in. So thank you so much, Larry, for creating this space for this conversation to take place. And personally, for me, I have realized that it is really a journey of discovery. The spirit of facilitation will reveal itself in due course of time, is what I'm taking back. However, having such conversations does help the process along. So thank you so much once again, Larry, for creating this, kind of experience for us. And as Larry has kindly said, in case there are any burning questions that you would like to still go ahead and discuss, Larry has kindly agreed.
Burning answers are also good.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So he has agreed to stay on for a bit, but for those of you who have other engagements, we are formally kind of closing the global webinar today. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in.
Thanks, Larry.
Thank you. Anyway, if you want to stay and talk, we can for a few minutes, but take care, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Take
so
care.
much. Larry, I wonder if you were in Peru during the 70s and 80s, because ICA was very strong in Peru for a while.
Yes, I was never there, but yes, I know colleagues who were there. No, I was in Africa, India, and Asia, other parts of Asia, and in the States, but never in Peru. I almost went a couple of times, but I haven't yet made it.
Okay. Actually, the reason why I'm mentioning that is because one of the reasons why I went into facilitation was actually when ICA was in Peru, in a little village in outside Lima. Aspizia, yeah, in Cañete.
Yes.
Yeah. So I visited there for a couple of times when I was like around 15, a long time ago, and and I learned part of some of the facilitation skills with that.
Yeah, well, that's where my facilitation began, was in villages, first in the States, but mostly actually in India, because I was in villages in Maharashtra for 3 years, and then in Africa and Kenya for 5.5. But then I worked in Philippines, Malaysia, and now Taiwan. And I still work in villages now. So it's somebody had a question. What is your response when a student of facilitation says he is a trainer? I spank him.
Larry, I will submit 2 names for you.
No, it depends on the context. If trainer role, facilitation role are 2 different roles. There is use of facilitation in a training context that can be very profound. So it really depends on what your real question is.
Oh, I think that's my assumption, that when a student of something is interested in like facilitation, and the person would like to practice facilitation, and my assumption is not always correct.
Oh, well, no, I have a lot of students in facilitation who are trainers, who are coaches, who are mediators, who are executive whatevers. Cool. Facilitation applies to everything. So, but I then ask them when they go into that space to be very conscious. Am I facilitating? Am I actually facilitating, or am I actually doing something else? And as long as I'm actually facilitating, I want to make sure the group or the person knows that. And if I'm not, then I want them to know what I am, what role I am trying to play. But I don't mind training anybody. In our facilitation training, often we try to talk people out of being facilitators, because for everyone, facilitation is not a role for everybody. It's a great thing. It's a great role, but it's not a role for everybody. And I know some people who are fantastic trainers and kind of suck at facilitation. And so I would rather have them go be trainers, because why? That's really their calling, and they can be fantastic at. Now they can then use facilitation in their training at different aspects, but they're not going to pretend they're facilitating. Did that answer the question?
Yes, thank you.